Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome onto my channel today, and it gives me great joy to observe you are viewing this video. I'm Dr. Lainka Conley. I'm a lecturer in the university. I'm a sociologist. On this channel, I do a number of stuff, but all the stuff I do, you can cluster them into four: sociology, research, relationship, and migration. Kindly go ahead and subscribe to this channel. And if you have subscribed to this channel previously, thank you very much. If you have not, kindly tap subscribe on your screen right now. Click subscribe on your screen right now. The video today is the structure of Nigerian society, the structure of Nigeria society. This video is very important within the confine of sociology, tourism, history, international relations, diplomatic studies, even security studies, across different areas. You can find this video very relevant because this video will give us in-depth understanding of the structure, the makeup, the organization, the arrangement of the Nigerian society, this society that you call Nigeria. What is the structure? How did we get to this place that we have today? So it's very important for rigorous understanding of Nigeria. So the structure of Nigerian society simply talks about the arrangement, the relationship among the different complex, complicated parts, that make up Nigeria. The arrangement, the structure, the relationships among them. When you understand the arrangement, the organization, the structure, and the relationship, you understand what we call Nigeria. So we talk about the institutions, the class, the analysis, structural analysis, institutional analysis of Nigeria using historical approach up to contemporary time so that we can understand where we're coming from, we can know where we are headed and what we should be looking at. You cannot understand the present of Nigeria like every other society without understanding the historical antecedent that produced the present situation that we find ourselves and the future of the country as a whole. So, and the best way to look at it, by the way, the Nigeria that we know today, in pre-colonial Nigeria, there was nothing like Nigeria. The name Nigeria emerged during colonialism. That's why people will still always say that Nigeria is a colonial creation. And until 1991, the capital of Nigeria was Lagos. But from 1991, the capital was moved to Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, because that was well considered central to the country. Where there are different narratives about this, but it's not before me. What I'll tell you is just what we know to be the objective and the real situation, so that we are able to understand, Nigeria. But Lagos State still remains, we consider Lagos State as the economic or industrial capital of Nigeria because it has the largest economy, in Nigeria. But we consider Abuja as, administrative political capital of Nigeria. But officially, the capital of Nigeria is the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. So you look at Nigeria from the traditional political system that were in existence during colonialism. So most of them are still around today. You talk about the pre-colonial social arrangement or institutional arrangement or the political arrangement. We talk about the centralized system of government, or administration in northern Nigeria. You talk about, the decentralized system, like we have maybe in southwestern Nigeria of today among the Yoruba or, of southwestern Nigeria. And you can talk about the acephalous among the Igbo society, Igbo group. So these are very important elements that you look at in terms of how Nigeria emerged and how Nigeria was at that point in time. So, and in pre-colonial Nigeria, these traditional institutions were there in colonial administration. We have the indirect rule system. The indirect rule system actually was essentially what was deployed then. That's why if you look at Nigeria, the indirect rule system was used as a policy of association. Whereas in the French colonies, in those days they used the policy of assimilation. The policy of assimilation was used in those places, which was more direct. But the political arrangement during colonial Nigeria was indirect rule system whereby the traditional institutions were used to administer those places, to cost and for convenience. And, but in these traditional societies, what you have different kingdoms, empires, caliphates. You talk about the Sokoto Caliphate, the Oyo Empire, the Benin Empire, the Kanem Bonu Empire, the Jukun Kingdom. All these kingdoms were operating on their own as independent kingdoms. And when these societies, many things brought them together in pre-colonial, marriage, you talk about trade, you talk about routes and this, and many of them also related based on war. You have a lot of war, especially if you look at the Yoruba, you look at the Mugba war, Egbada Omi war, all manners of war. And these wars were so predominant at those times that you have the Pax Africana. This was when there was an agreement, as driven by the colonial empires to be able to solve some of these wars. This agreement has come to be known as the Pax Africana. An agreement that was signed to put an end to all these wars, at those points in time. So these kingdoms, these empires, all of them, the caliphate, all of them emerged then to be created, to be collapsed, to form what we now know as the Nigerian state. So this Nigeria that you know today operated as kingdoms, different empire, different caliphates at those times. As a matter of fact, if you look at the northern Nigeria, you have the jihad that brought those places under the emirate and the caliphate system of highly Islamized, in those places. So Nigeria today, there was nothing like Nigeria in pre-colonial. These kingdoms were living on their own cultural dictates, their cultural situations, their environmental situations to meet their needs to govern themselves. Like I've shown you the centralized kingdom, the centralized hierarchical system of administration and governance in northern Nigeria. There are cephalasts in the east, and what you call the monarchical system, or what we call the decentralized system in the southwestern Nigeria. But colonialism brought all these structures together to form Nigeria. In pre-colonial, you talk about, the slave trade, the slave trade after the abolition of slave trade, then you talk about the legitimate trade among these autonomous bodies, then colonialism. So the state institutions only emerged, with colonialism. And these autonomous bodies before colonialism have their different culture, their different religion, the different tradition, the different gender dynamics, the different patriarchal system, the different family arrangement, the different marriage. And but with colonialism emerged Nigeria. And now fast forward, I talk about the pre-colonial, I talk about the colonial administration of indirect rule system to govern the Nigeria, as it were, at that point in time. For administrative convenience, exploitation of material resources, there was a lot of resistance at those points in time. You have the Aba Women Riot of 1929, when women rioted and protested against taxation as some obnoxious colonial policy. Who says women have never been active in Nigeria? Always, even in pre-colonial. It's only some partial narrative that were not grounded in history that will always narrate gender inequality across Africa as being existent in pre-colonial. In pre-colonial and colonial, women were very active. You have a lot of them, Queen Hamina, and a lot of them, Fumilayo and some Kuti. These are people that were very strong during colonial protests, colonial resistance. These are very important. But today, you now have formal employment. In pre-colonial, it was formal, semi-formal and informal educational system. But now you have institutions in contemporary Nigeria where you talk about the political institution, economic institution, religious institution, educational institution, family. Now you have the mass media or social media, then you have the health institutions. These are now the structures that bind Nigeria together as a society in the modern system. Now, the high level of unemployment is in Nigeria today because essentially the economy is largely formalized, and data is, to capture unemployment rate is based on formal unemployment, whereas most Nigerians actually operated from the informal sector. This is a sector that's not formalized and is usually not captured in the employment narration of Nigeria. But it's so good that the Nigeria National Bureau of Statistics, the Nigerian statistical body, is now using the informal sector data to also show that unemployment will not be as high because most Nigerians, over 70% of Nigerians, operate in the informal sector. And many are also using social media now to do a lot for themselves. Nigeria is a democratic country with democratic elections in every 4 years. President is elected on 4 years term, renewable by only 1 term, meaning a president can only go for 8 years, 4 in the first instance, if he's re-elected, another 4. The same thing for governors, the same thing for local government chairman, and election is conducted in that manner every 4 years, except where they have midterm elections, where they have maybe election tribunals or courts sack a governor or elected person in between, so they can have their own staggered election. But election is conducted 4 yearly in Nigeria as a democratic country. And there have been largely political stability in Nigeria since 1999, though there were a period of coup d'etat, until 1999, when Nigeria returned to democratic dispensation. And since 1999 to date, there have been democratic transition. So Nigeria can be regarded as a politically stable state, if you like, based on that. But the country is changing. You have youth bulge. The population of Nigeria now, over 50% of Nigerians are youth. That's how we call it, youth bulge. Youth bulge. And that is common across Africa. Yes, youth unemployment is high from a reformer perspective. Then you have high level of insecurity in Nigeria to a large extent, violent crime, kidnapping, banditry, terrorism, armed robbery, burglary, all manner, carjacking. But the security apparatus in Nigeria needs to be upgraded to be able to cope with these realities. And Nigeria is a class society. That is, people can move from one class to the other in terms of prosperity if they have what it takes to be socially mobile. There's a video on social mobility on this channel, and the class structure, people are considered poor based on poverty, unemployment, political disadvantages, and corruption is also high in Nigeria based on political corruption, especially grand corruption. But all Nigerians are involved because even at micro level, Nigerians also perpetrate and perpetuate corruption. Lying, all manners of taking advantage of others. Everybody in Nigeria appears to be ready to take advantage of the other person. And this is not a good culture, ultimately. And that's why it's usually said that people that want to loot Nigeria are even more than people already looting it. And youths also need to do better, need to have a sense of patriotism. There's a need for a sense of national identity to the extent that everybody protect the interests of the country. Not everybody just running race to take advantage of everybody and the whole system, because the system will collapse on everybody in the long run. It shouldn't be to your tent, oh Israel. Everyone for himself or for ourselves, God for us all. That's not the way to run a country, and that's not good. We need to build a high level of patriotism, for the country to be able to move forward. Nigeria is a culturally diverse country. Over 400 or 500 ethno-linguistic groups, different ethnic groups with different languages. This normally should not be a problem because there's power in diversity. There's a video on cultural diversity, on this channel. Cultural diversity and national development. There's another one on cultural diversity and national integration. View those videos to understand what I'm saying. So, opportunities abound in Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Never mind it's the largest economy in Africa. And Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and among the most populous black nations on earth. So the human resources, physical resources are there to drive development in Nigeria. And the temperature is very good. The climate is very good for agriculture. And tourism, areas of tourism are available in the country. It's only for the country to be the leadership deficit in Nigeria is high. It's only for the leaders to take proactive steps to move the country forward. And this is very important. The greatest problem of Nigeria, for me, is problem of leadership. There's a need for creative, constructive, progressive leaders to show direction, then leaders will follow. But Nigerian followers also have their own problem. The kind of people decide the kind of leaders they get. So Nigerian followers also must ask questions from their leaders. And everybody must be able to see this as very important. There is gender inequality. Women are still largely suppressed and oppressed in Nigeria. Men have more opportunities than women, generally speaking. But this is also changing. Women are becoming more assertive now, and But unfortunately, the policies of Nigeria, democracy of Nigeria, still operates on ethnic consideration, and religious bigotry. Ethnicity and religion still plays huge role, and politicians weaponize this for their own advantages, for the disadvantages of people. So this has to change. Because merit is still not it's not a major determinant of who gets what in Nigeria. Nigeria is not a meritocratic country. Chronism, favoritism, religion, ethnicity is still there. And this is a major problem. Merit is a major problem in Nigeria. Meritocracy is not well ingrained. And this is why, we have politicization of everything. We even have federal character, which means all regions of Nigeria must be represented in everything, regardless of qualification. Largely speaking, there have been debates that this federal character issue should be removed, must be discontinued. But because they believe that some part of the country, some parts are more developed than some other parts. So they believe the federal character suggests that every part must be represented. What happens to merit then? So, and this, you can see this in admission, employment, civil service, and everything that is government-oriented in Nigeria. Federal character must be considered, and that does not give room for merit. Well, people say it's because of inclusion. If you say only merit, then some areas that are disadvantaged, like northern Nigeria or some part of Nigeria, will be excluded from governance and opportunities. Well, it's left for you to judge. But that's what federal character means. The merit issue still need to be revisited. And, Nigeria is divided into, usually before, by region, north, south, or north, east, and west. But now, Nigeria is commonly considered on the basis of geopolitical zones. Zones not broken into three: northwest, northeast, north central. South broken into three: southeast, southwest, south-south. So we have 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, and it's on this basis that Nigeria is commonly considered. Nigeria is a culturally diverse country, like I said, many languages, and but one thing I want to set straight in this place is that there are too many negativities about Nigeria, negative things said about Nigeria, and I think this is not right. Nigerians themselves must change the narrative of the structure of their country. All countries have their own problems. You have a lot of stereotypes, prejudice, negativities, bigotries in describing Nigeria. Sometimes people overemphasize the poverty, the underdevelopment, the corruption. People even say Nigeria is politically unstable, and I think that's wrong. Nigeria is politically stable. All countries have their own problem, and the democracy is just emerging and is stabilizing. Social media is also helping to engage with government, and governance is becoming more responsive to some extent compared to what it was under the military immediately after independence, where you have coup d'etat, repeated coup d'etat, But now the country is stable, but the negative narrative are based on fake news, incorrect information. And this had to change in a way that they represent the Nigerian state in a negative way everywhere. And all over the world, people consider Nigerians to be the worst of people, criminals, drug peddlers, all manners of things, corrupt people, liars, and that's very wrong. So Nigerians themselves must change these narratives by understanding that their country is not the worst in the world, and there are worse countries, and there are good things happening in this country that people need to begin to appreciate. People have to look inward and search inwardly, so searching, and see what goes about the country, and push these narratives globally, rather than the negativity. Based on this video, you must have seen that the journey of Nigeria has been very long, and the future is still bright if we get the present correctly. Based on pre-colonial, to colonial, to post-colonial, that today is contemporary society, you can see the trajectory, you can see the shift, the changes. For me, the prognosis is positive. Nigeria is going to develop, but all ends must be on deck, and the narratives must not be based on prejudice, stereotypes, negativity, but positive energy within the structure of the system to look at what works, continue to amplify that and improve on that, look at what does not work and jettison that, and creatively drive change towards a better future. This video is the structure of Nigerian society. Thank you very much. Until I see you in my next video, Bye for now.